It could be your own fun-sized Cessna, and it's way more fun than it looks. Hey there, I'm John. This is Two Brothers RC, and this is the Cessna 182 from FMS. Unfortunately, it's not the 182 RG that I grew up with.
Back in my day, you kids didn't know what it was like playing flight simulators on graphics that make Minecraft look like a Leonardo da Vinci painting.
Crappy 90s graphics aside, the 182 is gorgeous. Cessna has a long history of making fantastic light aircraft, and the 182 is iconic for me as a child of the 90s playing Microsoft Flight Simulator at Meigs Field in Chicago. The 182 feels really nostalgic, but I won't let nostalgia interfere with the review criteria, so let's dive into it and see how this plane really stacks up. For today's review, I'll be using metrics that apply to general aviation aircraft at this scale. I'll be covering the following: landing gear, flight time, agility, fit and finish, and a new category for reviews going forward: avionics and lighting. Starting with the landing gear, the full-scale Cessna doesn't have a suspension system on the main struts, so naturally it follows that the model doesn't either. Both the full and model-scale aircraft have a suspension system on the nose, but the model's oil-filled nose strut is so resistant to shock that it hardly qualifies as a suspension at all.
There is a suspension on this thing, but it's so slow, I don't think it actually counts. That's not really absorbing shock at all. I think there's oil in there or something that's kind of keeping it from moving as well as it should.
It is there, and it does meet the criteria, but it's not as good as I think it personally could be. My biggest issue with the Cessna's gear are the tires that make it sound like a dumpster on wheels. It's really bad. Even the best landings sound like a garbage bin being taken out on a crisp Thursday morning. Come on, FMS, you guys can do better than this. Let's start seeing softer wheels on model aircraft. The Cessna gets a 4 out of 5 here.
These things, they are atrocious. They sound like dumpsters. It's bad. I think the easiest upgrade for this will be the E-flite Viper 70mm wheels, the newest ones Horizon came out with, that are actually soft and squishy and should absorb most of the shock.
In terms of flight time, the Cessna is powered by a 4-cell compatible 40-amp Predator ESC running a 3541 840 kilovolt Outrunner motor, which swings an 11x6 nylon propeller. This is a very efficient power system. Even with me trying to hover and torque roll the plane, the Cessna still gives me an average of 8 minutes of flight time on SMC 2800 high voltage batteries. If you can get them, they're the best packs I would suggest running with. The Cessna gets a 5 out of 5 here.
8 minutes and 3 seconds on an SMC 2800 that has been charged to 4.35 volts per cell. This thing is awesome. I love when Danny sends batteries like this that we can work with, because these things, it's warm to the touch, but man, actually, I didn't bring the LiPo checker, but that's okay.
This one?
Oh, well, I did bring it. Aha!
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's see what it looks like on camera. So I know some of you guys want to see this. Okay, so we ran it down to 9%, 3.67 volts. It'll bounce back to 3.7-ish, which is perfect. Otherwise, you're just not using all of the pack. So that's pretty phenomenal. This thing flies outstanding. I mean, we did 8 minutes of float flying on the first pack, and it's so dialed in, especially in this calm day where there's like almost no wind out here at all.
As far as civilian planes go, the Cessna is far more agile than it has any business being. Although it was really challenging, I almost managed to grab it out of a torque roll too. If you want to hover this plane, it will do it, which means that it has more than adequate thrust to perform.
Oh. It was a good try.
But here's some unfiltered thoughts on how difficult this actually is for me.
Once you get it stable, it'll stay put. Especially if you're using a snap flap mix like this, you can see me pulling the elevator, but it's still a lot of work. So if you go into trying to torque roll this beast, just be aware, it's not for the faint of heart, but it's not hard to recover from. It just doesn't always react the way you want it to. Flop. There we go. Once it's in it, it stays. Perfect.
I found myself enjoying a variety of different maneuvers with the 182.
Oddly enough, it's more pronounced to left knife edge than it is to right. Let's do it again.
Yeah. That's cool.
I think the 182 could be even more aerobatic if you mod the battery tray to get the battery further back into the cabin, but here's what my center of gravity looked like, so you have an idea of what to expect.
That is fun. It's kind of a pain in the ass to try to hover a nose-heavy plane. Well, maybe it's not even nose-heavy, it's just limited throws. With the pack that we're using, we got it balanced. I mean, this is still on the flight where I tried to, yeah. It is nose-heavy. It could be easily further back and it would be fine. Like, that would be the preferred spot. But even with the battery hanging off of the last strap, we're not getting the control authority that I want, especially in the rudder. But you know what? It's a Cessna. It's not a 3D plane. So again, my benchmark for this kind of stuff is that if the plane can do what I'm trying to make it do, that tells you that it can do just about anything else you want it to do. Because if I can force it to hover, it's got enough control authority to do pretty much anything you want. That's kind of one of my benchmarks for a prop plane like this, although it does kind of plop in on its all three wheels here.
Landings and takeoffs are really easy if you've got any experience in flying model aircraft. And if you do happen to get into a stall, well, I have good news for you. It's not hard to recover from. Observe.
Let's see if we can get an idea of how it stalls. So let's drop the flaps all the way and just yank it into a power off stall. This is literally nothing but, like, that's full back elevator. I'm doing nothing otherwise. Dare I say, it really just doesn't stall. That's crazy. Okay, now let's try adding some power to it while it is in the middle of that. So we're gonna go up a little higher just in case it gets a little weird. Okay, full back elevator, stalling it, feeding in some power. Okay, now we're getting, there we go. Now we're getting that weird behavior. Oh my God, whoa. That was a pretty strong stall. Don't do that. Don't drop full flaps, pull elevator, and then try to fly it in Harrier like that. Now let's try to fly it in Harrier with the stick held all the way back and feed in power. I don't like that. I am trying to fight it with rudder as much as I can. Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, that's doo-doo.
Where it gets harder is trying to do confined turns by loading up the wings, yanking it around quickly. But as you can see, even that isn't too much of a problem.
This thing absolutely can be flown in tight quarters, as you just saw there with that landing. I mean, that's pretty absurd. Watch this. We're going to go take off again. I'm going to peg the throttle. I'm going to add some back elevator and full left rudder. Look at that. Let's do it again until we mess it up or make an even better one. 3, 2, 1. Plop. That thing it's a beast, the way it can be flown. I mean, this thing's begging for a bush conversion, I'm telling you. To be able to turn like that, the wing loading on this thing has to be really low. Look at this go. Oh, see, look at that.
Saved it.
And that right there kind of got to me a little bit, but I mean, it's the fact that I could get out of that without it crashing as low as it was says a lot about how good this plane is. And that was with full flaps drop too. If you just add opposite rudder, it comes right out of it most of the time with a little bit of power.
In terms of agility, the Cessna 182 earns a 4 out of 5. Where I start to have other issues with the Cessna is bare foam. FMS does this a lot, and while it isn't a deal breaker for a lot of people, I am of the opinion that civilian aircraft would look way better with a nice gloss coat over a fully painted airframe. You may disagree, and feel free to. It did come out of the box undamaged, and I've got to say I'm really impressed with how they managed to pack that thing in such a small box.
How is this box so small for a 1500mm plane? Let's find out. Apparently, this is how. Look, I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about packing these airplanes up, but I'm going to say that's a really good packing job to get a 1500mm plane to fit in a tiny box like this.
My other issue is the hinge quality. I can understand foam hinges on aircraft that are smaller than this one, but a 1.5 meter wingspan imparts more forces on the control surfaces, and eventually the foam will separate from the hinge, meaning that you'll have to fix it yourself at some point. And if it does take an impact, the control surfaces will rip off. You can fix that with nylon pin hinges, but I don't think that you should have to. In what I'm hoping becomes a trend going forward with FMS, this plane actually features decals, not stickers. They look fantastic. The paint quality is great too. Cessna gets a 3 out of 5 here. The bigger these airframes get, the better they fly. However, more aerodynamic force is imparted to the airframe the bigger they get. So, why is it that the 182 comes with plastic-geared servos? Metal should be the standard for anything over 1.2 meters in wingspan. The servos aren't bad, and if anything, they are more than up to the task. But one impact to a control surface while the plane is powered could cause them to strip and require replacing them. That is far less likely with metal servos. The ESC is definitely built for the task of flying this plane. I didn't experience any overheating issues, even with non-stop hovering attempts. The lighting system does function, but FMS got the system wrong. Making the nav lights blink instead of the strobes is a miss. You can fix that though.
So for those of you guys who don't appreciate having these blinking navigation lights, well, I've got a quick fix for you on that. All you need to do is take this piece right here after you remove the battery tray, and then go ahead and pop that off, and you'll notice now the light's no longer flashing. So you then take the piece that you popped off, once I figure out where it is in here, there it is, and then you plug it into an open port on the board to make sure that you match the existing polarity, which is correct right here. Pop it in place, and look at that. Now you've got a solid light instead of a flashing light.
But you'll never fix the strobe lights on the wingtips without running them separately to the Quick Connect VGA port on the wings and to the fuselage. I'm all for quick connects. I think every airplane should come like that. But the quick connects shouldn't come at the expense of the lighting system looking accurate to the full-scale aircraft it's meant to represent. Like most FMS planes, the motor mount is pretty robust, though if you manage to slam it in nose first, you might have other issues to be worried about. Cessna gets a 3 out of 5 here. With everything taken into account, overall, Cessna earns a 19 out of 25. Not bad at all, but plenty of room for improvement. This isn't an indictment of the plane's quality, it's just an overview of what I feel is important. I know FMS is listening, so I hope they'll improve their airplanes going forward and make all of them even better. Do I recommend this plane? Absolutely. It's a ton of fun. Even if there's some issues that you can work around or adjust to your liking. Nothing is perfect after all. I think you'll enjoy it too, and if you want to pick one up and support us here at Two Brothers RC, check the video description to find a discount code for 5% off and a link to buy the plane to save some cash, and support us at no additional cost. It means a lot to me that you're willing to listen to what I say and consider helping our channel out, so for that I say thank you, friend. Consider joining us on Discord if you'd like to chat more about the Cessna or if there's something here I didn't cover but you wanted to know more about. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.